everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Level Up Your Mental. My name is Ariel. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and we are back with another topic. Today, I wanted to talk about change. Change is the one thing that is inevitable in our lives. It is something that is constantly always happening. There are very few things in our life that stay the same, but change is something that's always going to happen, no matter what in what aspect of your life, as far as in your personal life, your professional life, in your friendships, relationships, whatever it may be, change is something that will happen. Now, there's different magnitudes of change as far as small changes, big changes, minor changes, but we know change is something that is going to happen. When it comes to change, a lot of people struggle and they don't know how to cope when it comes to change, right? Some people are left with feelings of negativity, bitterness, regret, just about what the possible outcome can be from the change. A lot of times I will see some people that are so comfortable in their hometown and they don't want to experience that change of moving to a new city because they're afraid of being alone. They don't know the environment, and it's just something that they're just not ready for. But we also have to understand too, sometimes change is good. There are a lot of times where you might be so stagnant in your life that maybe change is going to be a good thing for you. You've been going through a lot of things, and maybe a change of scenery, not necessarily moving, but even being able to just take a change and be somewhere else so that you can collect your thoughts or do what you have to do or just take some time to relax is a good thing. Or even, if you were trying to grow as a person in your career or just in general, and you do decide to make that change and you get a job offer and you have to move somewhere that's not where you're familiar with. But, sometimes taking that opportunity and creating that change for yourself can help you grow as a person, but also help you build in your career, right? And a lot of times when I speak to people of older age, they'll tell me, I regret that I didn't, take that opportunity or that time to go do something different in my life because I was scared, or because I didn't know what was going to happen, so I didn't want to take it, or I was just so comfortable where I was and I didn't feel like it was necessary, right? So, a lot of times when it comes to change, it can be very difficult, but I just want to help you guys change the mindset when it comes to change, right? It can be a good thing. Not all things are negative when it comes to change, right? So you have to find ways to accept, flow, and cope with the transitions, and that'll make it a little bit easier with change, right? Whatever the change is, you may find yourself spending a great deal of effort trying to avoid it. And if we think about it, the amount of effort that it takes to avoid something and not directly deal with it is a lot. And if anything, it creates more negative experiences for you, because a lot of the times when we try to avoid things, it makes us more anxious. It limits us from doing certain things because we're just so afraid of what's going to happen. But if you think about it, a lot of times people feel better when they just deal with what's going on. Yes, they were scared. Yes, they didn't know it was going to happen. Yes, it's something completely different than what they're used to before, but a lot of the times people will say that the change was good for them. Now, on the other side of it, the change could be something that didn't work out, but at the end of the day, you feel good that you at least took the time and the opportunity to try it out, see if this thing works, and then you learned from it. You at least know that you went and you tried something and you didn't like it, and now you know that you don't want to do that again. But my whole thing is, or just in general, is you don't know unless you try. You never know about something unless you go and try and do it. And I think the big thing with change is just accepting the fact that it could go either way. You could come out with some good things and accept it and be able to add this thing to your life, or it could be something that you thought was going to be good. It didn't work out. You learned that it's not something that you like, and now you know in your life that this is not something that you want to do. Or again, it could change. I think people tend to forget that as a human, you're going to change. I would hope that you change when you go through all the different stages in your life, from when you're a child to when, you're a young adult, to when you're an adult, to when you're an older person. Change is going to happen. and your mindset changes whether you want it to or not. You start going through different stuff in your life, and your attitude, the way that you think, the things that you're around tend to change. And I think for some people this might be a hard concept, but it is true that things do change in your life, and you change as a person, and things are ever evolving. So it's best to just get with the program. And I don't want to say it like this is easy. Of course it's going to be a challenge if it's not something that you're used to, but you have to understand that things are going to change, and it's better to learn how to accept it, learn how to deal with it, make those mistakes, learn what's going on before you can honestly learn how to move forward with it. Because if you just keep denying it, it's not going to be beneficial for you at the end of the day, right? I wanted to talk about something that we talk about in therapy with people that are going through changes in their life, right? So there's a model called the stages of change. There are 6 stages of change, and this is kind of how we help people figure out where they are in their point in their life, right? There are a lot of times when people want to change things in their life, but they can't quite figure it out. You could think of something and then you want to do it, but you haven't really taken the steps to do it. Or there might be a thing where you started to take the steps, but you get a little bit scared, or you just don't know how to move forward from that process, right? So I just wanted to briefly just go through the 6 stages of change so that people are educated and they're aware, and they can kind of analyze where they are, and then they can figure out, okay, how do I move from this spot to this spot? Or do I need help moving from this spot to this spot? Because that's a possibility too, right? So the first stage of change is the pre-contemplation stage. This stage basically means that you're not ready for change, but there's an awareness in your brain that you're like, okay, I need to change something, but I'm not ready yet. I know that this is something that needs to change. I know that it is something that I can do, but I'm just not ready to do it, right? And I see a lot of people in this stage. And what I've seen as far as in my professional life when talking to clients who want to make a change, it's all a matter of planting those seeds in their head so that they can see that, yes, it's challenging, it's going to be a hard change, but it's not something that can't happen and you can't manage, right? A lot of times when we're in the pre-contemplation stage, we're scared. We have anxiety. We don't know what's going to happen. But I try to tell people, feel those emotions. Understand that those emotions are real, and those emotions can help you move through the process. So if you're in the pre-contemplation stage, try and figure out, okay, what is it that I'm afraid of? What is it that's not helping me move forward, and how can I move myself forward, right? And this is where therapy, a mentor, or someone can help you guide where you can try to figure it out, right? Because we don't know everything. And if we're scared, sometimes talking to someone who's either been through that or has some type of experience with it, or can provide us some type of advice with it, they can kind of help us move through that process, right? So the second stage would be contemplation, right? You are able to see the problem, you think about your behavior, and you monitor the situation. So at this point, you're kind of just like, okay, I know what I got to do. You've looked up the information, you're kind of starting to do the work, but you're not fully invested, right? So these are real stages, right? These are things that are going to happen, and these are things that truly happen to people, and some people get stuck in these stages, right? So the whole point is to educate you and try to figure out where you are. The third one would be preparation. You want to change the behavior, so you start actually making those steps, you start making those calls, you start getting the information and taking the action to do the thing and start getting the process running, right? So if you want to make a change in your life, and you know that part of that is going to be, I have to move and change my scenery, you start looking for apartments in different places or homes in different places, and you start to see, what are my options, right? You're actually taking the action to do something, and you're not just sitting thinking about it. The fourth one would be action, right? You're ready to leave the negative habit behind, and you're moving towards the next stage. So you are actually doing it. So now that you found the home and you know where you want to move, you're applying for it. You're starting to take the process in, as far as like, how am I going to make this process of moving to another place? What do I need to do? You're getting movers, you're doing this and that. Like, you're actually taking the action to start making that process move along. The fifth thing would be maintenance. You have managed to sustain the changes, and the goal is to keep things where they're at. So you have decided to make that change. You've gone ahead and you did it, and you're in the middle of the change, right? You're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you want to make sure that that change is steady and it's good for you and it's still working out, right? Because like I said before, you can make a change and it doesn't work out. But once you've actually got to that point and you're in the process of it, you're working through it. This is what it means to the maintenance part of the change, is that you're keeping up with what's going on, and you're also like maintaining your mental wellness and making sure that you're doing good while all of this is going on. And the last thing would be determination, right? Building better goals and making more positive change. So now that you've actually gotten to the point that you've made the change and you do what you have to do, now you're starting to figure out, okay, what is my next thing? What are my next goals? I was able to get through this change. It took a lot of steps to get here, but I finally got here. So what is the next thing that I'm going to do to challenge myself and move through it, right? And this is why I try to get a lot of people, a lot of clients, or just people in general, to see that, okay, right now it's hard. Yes, the change is hard. You don't understand what you're doing. You don't know what's going on, and you're afraid. But I always, challenge people to think about, do you ever think about a time in your life where you've had this feeling before, but you were actually able to go through the process? Or even looking at it like, have you ever gone through this point in your life before where, you didn't make that change and you saw the effects of not making the change and it was something negative for you, right? So it's kind of just looking at other situations that have happened before and kind of trying to see how you can align with it right now and how that change can be effective for you, right? So again, the stages of change, right? It's a model that goes through the series of changes and finally transforms the individual into the exit stage, right? So at this point, you've made the change, you know what you need to do, you're okay with starting to make goals for the next steps in your life, but you have gone through the process, just being able to look at the different stages, right? So this now brings me into, why is it so difficult to deal with change, right? What is it that makes it so hard? It seems so simple, like, okay, something is going to change, let me just go and do it. But our emotions are involved when it comes to change, right? We are human. These are things that happen when we are comfortable and we are in our comfort place and we know that things are going, and then something comes and disrupt it. A lot of times people take it like as a threat. They don't want to make that change. But there are certain things in our life that we know that if we don't adjust to the change, it won't be good for us. And if anything, it's going to cause more negative things for us than positive, right? So coping with change requires you to pivot in your life, right? As change happens, your routines are disrupted. You suddenly have to adapt as you are being pushed further and further out of your comfort zone, right? Nobody wants to be pushed out of their comfort zone. Even I have a place of comfort that when I feel like I have to get out of that comfort zone, it's a lot. Everybody wants to feel comfortable. And when change comes, that's when it challenges you to get out of that comfort zone. And that doesn't mean that that's something that you're going to be doing forever, but it is something that you have to try and figure out and to see, okay, how can I deal with this change, right? So we know that when it comes to getting us out of our comfort zone, it's not going to be easy for everybody, right? But we know change is going to happen. It's something that's going to occur. So we have to learn how to deal with it. So change can be uncomfortable to deal with, right? It may require you to make some adjustments to your day-to-day routines. While you can't always steer a change, you can learn how to respond to it. And this is a big part on why I want to talk about this topic, is that change is going to happen, like I said before. It could be something big, it could be something small. And it's all about the mindset that we have to deal with it, right? Now, I'm not going to say that this is the mindset that you're going to have every single time, but I feel like, in certain circumstances, if you learn how to deal with change, you can apply the way that you deal with it to a variety of situations. So like I said before, change isn't always a bad thing, but even good changes that you are excited about can be stress inducing. Like I said before, changing jobs, changing locations, all of this stuff is can be very stressful but also exciting, right? You are very excited to have a new opportunity and to be in a different space, but it's also very stressful to think about the fact that you now have to uproot yourself and go somewhere else and deal with new people and be in a new environment, and that can be stressful for some people. Some people don't know how to deal with that, but it's not like it's something that you can't learn how to deal with, right? So while dealing with change, like I said before, people tend to use the coping mechanism of avoidance, right? Avoidance can sometimes reduce stress in the short term, but it's found that actually it increases stress and anxiety in the long term. Like I said before, you keep avoiding something, at the end of the day, you're gonna have to deal with that change at some point. Something is going to happen, or something is going to challenge you where you're gonna have to deal with that change. And you're gonna have to no longer avoid it. And I've seen it happen in multiple instances, where, even in relationships, people will tend to not want to deal with their relationships or want to deal with the big elephant that's in the room, the issue that's currently happening in their relationship, and they would rather avoid it until something big happens, and then they have to deal with it head on. And all of this stuff has built up over time because you didn't deal with it at the time that it occurred. So now you have multiple things to deal with, and then it becomes a very stressful situation. So we want to learn that we have to deal with this change. And, I'm not saying don't take the time to think about it, process it. That's completely fine. But don't use your whole entire time to just avoid it, because it's going to happen. It's going to pop up, and it might not pop up in the way that you would want it to, but it's going to happen, right? And avoiding it only creates negative habits for ourselves, such as being stressed out and having a lot of anxiety. So when it comes to accepting change, right, the definition of acceptance, right, it's basically the idea of experiencing thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations as they are, without trying to control, avoid, or change them, right? When we learn to accept things the way that they are, we start to see that we can have some positive emotions with this. Just because a change is happening doesn't mean that you have to have a negative mindset towards it. Having a positive mindset is something that will definitely help benefit your body at the end of the day. If you keep projecting something, if you keep trying to control something that's out of your control, if you keep adding that avoidance, it's only going to make it harder for you. So a lot of times it's better to just accept it, right? Especially the things that are out of our control. I see a lot of people that get overwhelmed, stressed, get upset over things that they have literally no control over. If we have no control over it, stressing over it and getting upset about it, how is that going to be beneficial for us at the end of the day? So if we learn how to deal with these feelings, how to deal with the situations and change our mindsets for it, then we can learn how to apply those same routines when certain things happen. A lot of times things will happen in our life that we are not able to control, right? And I try to tell people that there's just so many things that we can control in life. And if we start to look at things in a certain way, the things that we can't control, and learn that that's okay, that's when I think our mindset and our relationship with change will happen. When we stressed about, something that's coming up in the next 2 weeks, and we know that there's nothing that we can do about it until that situation comes up, stressing about it for the next week or two is not going to help. We know that there's nothing that we can do about it until that situation arises, right? Or maybe there might be some things that you can do. It might not have a direct change as of right now, but it'll help you in the long run. So a lot of times I try to tell people, focus on the things that you can control. A lot of times in some situations, the only thing that we can control is ourselves and how we react to it. And getting upset with somebody else or getting upset with the situation, even though you know there's nothing that you can do about it, is not beneficial for you. So you have to learn how to change your own mindset and learn how to deal with it and understand that it sucks right now. It's something that I have to learn how to deal with, and there's nothing that I can do right now that it's going to change it. But I do know eventually something is going to happen, but I have to learn how to deal with the emotions right now. And with acceptance, it isn't about putting up with a bad situation. Rather, it's about recognizing the facts of the current situation. Like I said before, you don't want to sit in a situation that you know is bad because you're just going to accept it. Well, it is what it is. I'm just going to deal with it. That's not okay, right? You don't have to accept a bad situation. When I mean acceptance, I mean accepting the fact that I need to change the situation. And me sitting here and trying to avoid it and act like this is normal or act like this is okay is not going to help. I need to understand that I have to accept what's happening, and I need to figure out what I can do within myself or the situation around me to help change and learn how to move through the situation. Because again, avoiding it and accepting the fact that this is a bad situation, I'm just going to deal with it for the rest of my life, is not going to help you. And a lot of times I just see people who end up depressed, they end up upset, and they just learn how to be stagnant in their life. And it's not fair when you are allowed to make changes. This comes with the thought process of not everybody around you is going to accept your change, right? This is something that you have to be willing to accept within yourself and understand that not everybody's going to be along for the ride with you. But at the end of the day, you're doing what's best for you. You're making yourself happy. And if someone truly loves you, cares about you, and is in your corner, they will understand why you've made that change and learn how to support you with that, right? It's going to be difficult, but at the end of the day, you're doing what's best for you. And that's the main thing that needs to happen when it comes to accepting change. Understanding that this is something for you, and sitting in a situation that you don't want to be in is not going to be beneficial for you at the end of the day, right? So this moves me into one of the models that we use in therapy that I use a lot and try to incorporate in a lot of my sessions, or just in general with certain clients, right? When it comes to change and what they're going through in their life. So there's a therapy model called acceptance commitment therapy, right? Acceptance commitment therapy is rooted in helping people accept their difficulties and move on, leaving all the negative stuff behind. A lot of times there's points in our life where it would be so much better for us if we just accepted what happened. Trying to negotiate, trying to avoid, trying to, make it worse than what it is, you get to a point where you realize that that's not helping you. It's not beneficial, right? And so this model in therapy helps you to understand, like, okay, something difficult is happening right now and I need to accept it. Once I've accept that, then I can learn how to move on from there, right? And I'm not saying this is going to apply to every situation, because there are certain situations where it's not going to be easy to do that. But in certain situations, you learn that, okay, my job let me go. That is something that I am dealing with right now. I'm upset. I don't know why they let me go. I don't understand. But they were able to provide me with a severance package that'll hold me for a couple of months so that I can find a job. Now, instead of sitting and sulking and getting upset that you lost your dream job, you lost a job that you thought you were going to have for a while, you have to learn how to accept that, yes, this is difficult. I'm upset. I'm able to feel those emotions, but look at it at the other side. Maybe this is giving me an opportunity to find something else that would be better for me. Maybe there's something out there that's better for me. Maybe this job wasn't the right job. Who knows? But sitting and sulking in it is not going to help. So we accept that change. We learn how to move on and let go of the negative feelings that come with it. And I'm not saying don't ever experience those negative emotions. You're going to experience it. You're human. But don't sit in it. Understand that, yes, I'm upset. I'm able to be upset. I'm able to cry, learn how to adjust with the situation, but accept the situation for what it is and move on, and understand that we don't have to keep attaching negative emotions to it. It is what it is. Life happens and we have to learn how to adjust with it, because if not, we're just going to keep adding on negative emotions to ourselves, and that's not going to be, a life that you would want to live. Nobody wants to live in negativity all the time. It becomes stressful and it's just not beneficial at the end of the day. So acceptance commitment therapy, ACT, is such a great thing, and I love using it with people who tend to be stuck, especially in those stages of changes that I spoke about before. When you're in those stages of changes, a lot of times this therapy model can help you learn how to accept it and learn how to move on instead of dwelling on it, right? And again, with ACT, it's very goal oriented, it's solution focused, and it follows a step-by-step approach in helping people reach their target in life. If you are someone who is able to move forward, but right now you're stuck, ACT might be a good thing for you, you know? And I'm not saying this is something for every situation, but it could be beneficial for someone who's truly stuck in a life transition and doesn't know how to move forward. So you can look up therapists who specialize in this or who are able to use this, and you can suggest it in your own therapy practices, or you can suggest it in your own therapy sessions if the therapist feels like it's something that aligns with you, and you can use it as a way to help you move through whatever it is that you're going through. So now I want to move on to the last part of the video, which is, strategies for learning how to cope with change, right? What is it that you can do? And this might not be for every situation, but this is kind of like a base to kind of help you when it comes to change, right? So the first thing would be prepared, right? When you are the one to initiate a change, there's a stronger chance that you feel like you have more control over what's going on. It is often that unexpected changes happen in your life, right? Like losing a job, divorce, death. That can leave you feeling afraid and unsure of what will happen. So a lot of times, be prepared. When someone you know and love is passing away and they're in hospice or something is happening, it is better for you to learn how to accept the fact that this person is dying instead of trying to avoid it and not going to visit them, not spending time with them. I don't know how many times I've dealt with people who not dealt with I don't know how many times I've spoken with people who have been through grief and they don't know how to deal with those emotions, and they would rather just avoid it. But then when the person passed away, they regret it and they feel bad that they didn't go spend time with them and they didn't learn to just accept it. And a lot of times with people who are sick, not say a lot of times, there are some people who are sick who learn to accept the fact that they are sick, and they learn to live their life. Because what am I going to do, sit around and sulk at the fact that this change is going to happen? I have to be ready for it, and I have to have my family ready for it because it's going to happen. So yes, be prepared for when these things happen. Now, you might not have all the tools when this happens, but at least get in the right mindset when you get the idea that something is going to happen. Be prepared for it and stop trying to avoid it. The next thing would be, adjusting your mindset. It's more empowering to shift that perspective to focus more on your strengths and the abilities to adapt. You have to understand that you have the strengths to adapt to changes. You've been through changes before. Everybody has been through a certain change. It could be something small, something big. Everybody has been through some type of change in their life. And changing the way that you see it will be beneficial for you, right? You might see the positives that come out of the situation, or believe in your ability to survive and thrive through the change. Especially if you've been through a change before or a similar situation before, you have to look back and be like, hey, I was able to get through this. Yes, it might have taken a lot. I might have had to do a lot, but I was able to get through it. It wasn't the end of the world, right? So this kind of brings me into, when I talk about adjusting your mind, cognitive reframing. That's another thing that we use in therapy, right? It's about shifting the perspective from which you view a situation. Again, looking at something more in a positive way than in a negative way. Yes, I lost my job and it's terrible right now, but if I look at it, I have a severance package. I can learn how to look for other jobs, and hopefully I can find something that will adjust with me. I have the time to be able to do that. It's not something that I have to do as of right now, because the old job gave me the severance package, and I can learn how to move through those emotions and figure out how this is going to work for me, right? So if you want to shift into a more positive mindset about a change in your life, notice any cognitive distortions that you're having, right? Are you engaging in patterns like catastrophic or all or nothing thinking that worsens your thoughts, right? This is something I see big in people. It's all or nothing. It's either or. It's black or white. There's nothing in between. But we know in life that that's not how it works. You're always going to have some type of option. It might not be the option that you want, but there always is some type of option to the solution. And a lot of times, if it's not something that you want, you learn how to make the adjustments for it. So I try to tell people, try not to have that all or nothing thinking. If something happens, oh man, this is going to be terrible, it's never going to work out. No, try and look at it the other way. It's going to be difficult, yes, but who knows? It could work out, it could not. I could learn from it. It is what it is. The other thing is, consider the evidence. How realistic are your thoughts? What evidence is there to dispute your negative thinking? A lot of times when people have negative thoughts, you really have to sit down and analyze, like, the stuff that I'm thinking right now, is that actually going to happen? Am I just thinking about that because I'm worried and I'm letting anxiety take over the way that I'm feeling? We have to understand too, not every single thing that we think is going to be the outcome of the situation. A lot of the times, like I've said, we have all these overthinking thoughts, we have anxious, and a lot of times that tends to make us think about something that couldn't even happen. But because our mind is so creative and we are thinking about all the different options that could happen, a lot of times this is what happens, right? So again, consider the evidence. Try and think, is this realistic? Is this really going to happen, or am I just overthinking? And then the other thing is, be kind to yourself. Is your self-talk to yourself kind and compassionate? How can you show yourself kindness in this situation? I think this tends to happen a lot, and what I've seen is with single parents. Whether you're a woman or a man, doesn't really matter. Being a single parent, a lot of times people will feel bad for themselves, like, why did I put myself in this situation? Why did I let this person put me in this situation? And we don't want to put that negative thought on ourselves, because I'm sure we're already experiencing negative comments or things from other people outside of us, and adding that negative stuff from our own self is not going to help. We have to push ourselves to get to that point. And if we already have negative chatter coming into our ears, and then we add on the negativity in our own mind, it's not going to help us, right? So you have to be kind to yourself, be compassionate with yourself, understand that you made a mistake, understand that something is happening, and you have to learn how to adjust to it. But don't be mean to yourself because of a situation and change is happening. Learn to accept it and understand that you've been through it, and that you are going to get through it, and that you're strong, you're resilient, and you can make it happen, right? Mindset is definitely a big part when it comes to change. You have to learn that your mindset can definitely help you. I see it in all different professions. And just recently we had the NBA finals, right? A lot of times they talk about your mindset. That plays a big factor. If you are down by a couple of games, you have to have that mindset of, okay, we can still make this happen. The team has to have that mindset that we need to make this happen, right? And a lot of times it just takes one person to mess it all up with a negative mindset and just add that on to everyone, right? But if you hold that positive mindset within yourself and you understand that, okay, I've been through this before, or I've been through something similar and I can make it happen, or I'm strong enough to be able to see the other side of this, then you can make it a better situation, a positive outcome for yourself, and learn how to deal with the situation in a positive way. And so another coping strategy would be maintaining your routines, right? When the world is changing all around you, holding on to some sense of normalcy can be useful, right? When everything is changing all around you, sometimes I've seen people say that it's so beneficial for them to just have a routine, because they know that, again, comfort, this is something that they're used to, it's something that they've always been doing, so they know what to do, right? So in the research that I've seen, it says that maintaining routines can help people get a better handle on symptoms of stress and anxiety. Simple things like going to bed and waking up at the same time each morning can provide you with a sense of structure, even if it feels like other things in your life are less predictable. So if everything else is crumbling all around you, but you still have that routine of waking up at the same time every day, drinking a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, reading your devotionals, writing down in your journal, even just having that sense of normalcy can kind of help ground you and help you understand that, okay, a change is happening, but I still have some type of normalcy around me, which means that, okay, even with change, I can still have a positive mindset and a positive outcome if I just learn how to adjust with it. Another coping strategy would be seeking social support. And this is a big one. I try to tell people there's resources all around you for everything that you go through in your life. And we can't go through life thinking that we're going to be able to do everything by ourselves, because it's not true. Everything that we do, we need the assistance of something, right? So friends, loved ones, other social connections can provide support in various ways. When you're dealing with changes in your life, it's important to remember that other people might not be able to recognize the need for a specific type of support, right? In many cases, asking for the kind of support you need is a great place to start. Sometimes when you don't know what's going on, it's always good to at least help someone. And I think this is also important to remember too. Not everybody in your life is going to be able to help you. You have to be able to identify the people that you know are going to be able to help you and be beneficial when you have these stages of changes. So understand that, not everybody in your life is going to be able to support you or be able to help you or be able to guide you. But I think it's essential to understand that it's good to have a support system and to be able to have someone to talk to, someone that's even able to help you cope by taking your mind off of things, helping you get into another space where, okay, you've been stressing about this thing for so long, there's nothing that you can do about it. Let me just take you out so we can relax and think about something, because you are allowed to do that. You don't have to stress over something 24 hours, 24/7 in a day because it's happening. You're allowed to take a break and learn how to cope with this in a healthy manner. So yes, take heed and take the initiative of having a good support system when change is happening. The other thing is caring for yourself. When stressful events often seem much worse when you are exhausted or when you're hungry, so taking some time to attend to your basic needs, like eating a healthy meal, getting some rest, or just taking some time to relax can, restore some sense of normalcy in your life, right? If you are stressed out because you have somebody in the hospital and you're spending day in and day out in the hospital, sometimes people will tell you, hey, take a break, or reach out to another support system that is going to be helpful for you, and just be like, hey, I need to go home and just eat. I need a second to relax, because staying in that state of being stressed out of what's going on is not going to help you help that person or help yourself. So sometimes reaching out to our support systems and being like, hey, can somebody take over so I can take a break to be able to eat, get some sleep, get some rest, just take a break, and then I can come back energized and be in a different headspace so I can learn how to figure out the situation, instead of sitting there and not taking care of yourself and really not adding to the situation, because you being stressed out is not going to help at all. I'm sure whatever it is that you're going through, or the person that you're trying to help, is already stressed out enough and the situation is already stressful. So taking a break and learning how to care for yourself is a very important thing to take notice of when things are happening, right? Learn to take a break, learn how to take care of yourself by eating a healthy meal and taking some time to rest. And then the last thing would be knowing when to seek help. Same thing with the support system. Maybe your support system doesn't know how to deal with this, right? And maybe it's something where you have to seek professional help. And that's why I try to tell people too, going to see a therapist, you don't always have to go when something bad is happening. You can go talk to a therapist when you have life transitions and you don't know how to deal with it. If you are someone that is very closed with your parents and now you're in the stage of change in your life where your parents are getting older, you're getting sick, and you don't know how to deal with it, and maybe you're an only child, maybe you're not close to other family members and you don't know how to manage it, this is where you can seek out professional help. A therapist can help you manage those changes and can provide you some type of support when you feel like everything else around you is crumbling and you don't have the proper support that you need, right? So a therapist can help guide you in that point, and they can kind of give you a different perspective than the people that are in your life. The people in your life can only help you so much, and sometimes it's better to go see someone that doesn't know anything about you, doesn't know anyone, and is just going based off of the information that you're giving them and based off of the knowledge that we have learned and how we can help people adjust to things. Know when you need to seek help. Like I said before, you can't do everything by yourself, and sometimes things can seem a little bit easier if you just seek the support, right? So The last thing that I want to say in regards to change is that you can't always control change, right? But you can manage how you respond to those changes. Developing a positive mindset is a great way to promote resilience, but it is also important to care for yourself during these times of transition. Make sure that you are sticking to a routine, caring for your physical and emotional needs, and ask your loved ones for help when you need an extra hand. Don't make yourself feel like you're a burden. Sometimes people will see that someone is struggling, but they're afraid to go and ask them if they need help, because that person is the type of person that always wants to do things by yourself. But if you let people know that, hey, I need help right now, right? I need someone to be able to support me right now. And it might not be a necessary thing where the person has to take over and do everything for you, but it's nice, like I said, to have someone in your corner that can help you either relax, take some moment away from that, someone who has been through this before and can help strategize with you, or just someone to be able to lighten the load and to express your thoughts and things to. Understand that change is going to happen, and it's better for you to learn how to change your mindset and how to adjust with it than to avoid it and try to move away from it, right? So I want to thank you guys for tuning into another video. Let me know if there's any other topics that you would like for me to talk about. I'm very passionate with mental health. This is something that I want to continue doing, and I'm just going to continue to push the content out there, and hopefully it will help whoever it resonates with. But please let me know if there's any topics that you would like for me to talk about. Please join in on the conversation in the comments below. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.